All right, here with award-winning sports journalist and broadcaster, Peter Badel. Pete's massive fight.
Massive, and I can't wait, Macca. I've got to say, there's probably been a handful of fights in Australian boxing in the last 20 years that I've been really excited about, and this is one of them. I think back to Mundine Green 06, I was shaking as Anthony Mundine was walking out to the ring. I wanted Chock to win that night. Sorry, Danny. And then I think to Horn Zoo, I was there that night in Townsville in 2020, August. That was a magnificent spectacle. And of course, the great fights between Jeff Horn and Michael Zerafa. And I was there the night that Jeff Horn got revenge in that return bout. So this has all the makings of a great fight. I mean, stylistically, I think it's the perfect fight for a fight for the ages. I still think right now my gut would say that Michael Zerafa's best is better than Nikita's best, but I still think Nikita has more gears in him, and that's the danger for Michael Zerafa. What version of Nikita are we going to see on January 16?
What about the mental sort of battle between these two? What's your read on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we saw it at the press conference today, didn't we, Mac? There was a real undercurrent of tension, and it's funny, we've been in the room before with Nikita Tszyu build-ups, and even I remember the one against Jack Brubaker, there was some light-hearted gags, but it was almost a bit awkward at times. And then there was the Nikita Tszyu presser against Danilo Criati, which didn't have a lot of pop and crackle, but this had a real edginess to it, and you could feel it in the room. It was palpable, and I think that's indicative of the fact that both men feel that they've both got vulnerabilities, but they've also got strengths that, if they execute right on the night, will get them the victory. And I think it's going to be a barn burner, and I think Nikita's got the power to really hurt Michael. I think Michael's hittable, as is Nikita, and that's the beauty of this fight. They both are hittable in vulnerable moments, and really it will only take one opening, and I think it will be a fight-ending opening. So I don't think it goes the distance. It'll go to the later rounds in my eyes, but it won't go the distance, and the victor will be the person who spots that opening and then goes for the jugular, as Michael Zerafa can do so well.
What's at stake here for both these guys? Obviously, a defeat for Michael could be career-ending for him. A defeat for Nikita, and he'd be sort of a pariah amongst the Tszyu family, perhaps.
Yeah, your words. Good choice of words, Macca. Look, I will say, Macca, look, this fight is the battle of the mind. That's where it will be won, because I think they both have physical tools to win, but ultimately I think there's also always been question marks about Michael Zerafa's mental toughness and his mental composure under pressure, and I think Nikita Tszyu has shown his mental fortitude in several fights. He's almost been stopped a number of times, and he's risen from the canvas as he did against Dylan Biggs in the opening round and won that fight so beautifully, and brutally. So I think Nikita's shown that he's got, I think you could argue he's mentally tougher than Michael. So it'll be one in the battle of the mind, but the implications and the repercussions, Macca, to me, if Michael Zerafa loses this, it's career over. I think he should retire if he loses. I don't see where Michael Zerafa goes if he doesn't beat Nikita Tszyu, who, when you look at their experience levels, Michael Zerafa 39 career fights, Nikita Tszyu 11. Michael's had far better opponents in terms of resume and record to suggest that he should win this fight. And if he can't win this fight, then I don't believe he ever climbs the mountain again as a world title contender. Conversely, Nikita Tszyu, look, I don't think it's career-ending for Nikita because he's only 27, he's entering his fourth year as a pro, but it would be a seriously catastrophic loss in terms of the elevation of Nikita and the narrative they're trying to construct around him at a time when Tim Tszyu's been vulnerable, he's been beaten, and so the Tim Tszyu star's on the wane at the moment. They No Limit need Nikita Tszyu to keep winning, and so it's imperative that Nikita does keep winning. If he doesn't, then it's a real blow for No Limit promotionally, so there's a lot of pressure on Nikita to keep the family name going.
What do you made of the demeanour of Michael Zerafa? Obviously, he doesn't like certain members of the media, myself included, but what have you made of his sort of demeanour, particularly at the press conference today?
Well, it was interesting on the telecast, Macca, Nikita Tszyu, I asked him, I said, do you think, we've seen different guises of Michael, do you think he's fake? And he said, yeah, I do think he's fake. And look, to be honest, I love it when Michael leans into the character that he is. I mean, there is an edginess about him. There is a competitive edge about him. There is an internal self-belief about Mick Zerafa, and sometimes an unlikability about him because of the way he carries himself. I think it's fantastic. I think Michael should buy into it, because to me, that's when he's at his best. I mean, I thought one of his greatest performances was when he beat Isaac Hardman in 2 rounds, and Isaac riled him up before the fight, said he was going to knock him out, talked a good game, Isaac, and Michael Zerafa went in the ring, cools a cucumber with one of the best, quickest shots I've ever seen. That left check hook was magnificent. So Michael Zerafa, to me, fights best when he's an angry fighter, when he's a besieged fighter, when he's an embattled fighter. And I don't think he should worry about being sort of the bad guy come good. I think he should just embrace who he is. And he can be highly strung at times, and I think it's to his advantage when he responds to that. And so that's, I could see Nikita, he was trying to get under his skin today, and Michael wasn't always buying it, but you could see there was a few little verbal barbs and jibes that said to me that there is a genuine hatred building, and I think it will explode on January 16. This will get uglier as the weeks go on.
Tszyu, what are you made of the changes he's made to his team, and talk of a December return date perhaps? Thoughts on all of that?
Well, the mail I've got, Macca, is that he'll be back December 17 at the ICC here in Sydney, and it's fantastic. Look, I have to say, Macca, I applaud Tszyu. Like, he's copped all sorts of brickbats. People have written him off. He's been discarded by many, but I still don't believe that we've seen the best version of Tszyu. Like, he's had 3 losses in his last 4 fights, which is, that'd be mentally destabilising and damaging for him. But to me, it was the change he needed, Macca. Like, look, there are probably certain elements of his camp that he didn't need to change. I think Glenn Jennings did a fantastic job as his manager. I mean, as a manager, he did all that he needed to do. I think he found the right fights at the right times, at the right stages of Tim's career, and he took him to a world title. That must never be forgotten. But I still believe that for Tim to reclimb the world title summit again, I believe he needed to make some adjustments. I think Igor did a wonderful job, but took him, I believe, as far as he could. And it was an interesting point that Tim made, a comment I read where he said he was almost starstruck by his new trainer, Pedro Diaz. He's almost sees him as like a messiah. And I think that's a good thing for Tim, because he said he almost was calling the shots on his terms with Igor. And that's always dangerous for me when your trainer is giving you instructions and Tim's saying, no, I'll walk to the beat of my own drum. So Tim won't be doing that with Pedro Diaz. I think he'll be hanging off every word that Pedro Diaz gives him, and that's possibly the next 5 or 10% that could better him as a fighter, and he's going to need that percentage, because if he wants to rebound, which I think he can, with the right fights, selected at the right time, strategically, carefully, delicately, Tszyu can win a world title again, but it has to be against the right opponent at the right time, and that's where Mike Altamura, the strategic matchmaker, comes in. He's got a critical job. He does his job well, Mike. He'll pick the right opponent, and with Pedro Diaz adding tools, adding more elements to his weaponry, I believe Tszyu isn't finished just yet.
Last one, Liam Paro. A bit of talk about perhaps some purse bids for a fight against Paddy Donovan. What are you hearing about that fight?
Well, I'm hearing it could be on this very card as a possible co-main, which would be massive. I mean, I'd love to see Donovan and Paro on this Zerafa Tszyu card. I mean, how good would that be? It'd be a real blockbuster for Australian boxing, a real coup for Australian boxing. Look, it's a fight that's very winnable for Liam. I think Paddy Donovan, to me, I thought he'd win the rematch against Crocker. I mean, I thought he was hard done by in the first fight. Of course, there was that DQ, but Paddy Donovan was ahead on the cards in that first fight, and he was devastated to lose that one by DQ. So, but the second fight, Crocker, that lethal left hand, he's a real serious fighter. So, look, Paddy Donovan, he's got great work rate, but I think he's also hittable for a guy like Liam, who's technically a very good boxer, beautiful IQ, great distance control, great gap control, and finds range pretty quickly. So I think it's a perfect fight for Liam. It's the type of fight that he can win, and I'm told that it will be in Australia, which would be wonderful for our boxing economy.
Now, last one. Can you confirm or deny that the press conference today was delayed because Peter Vidal's flight was circling Sydney Airport? Is that true or false, Pete?
Mate, there was a little thunderstorm in the air, and you know I get nervous flying, Macca, so I was shaking in the seat, saying my prayers and applying my makeup on the flight to make it here in time. But I think your mail's wrong for a change, Macca. I won't confirm or deny, but we got there in the end. We got there in the end for the main event, which was Zerafa, not Macca Badel.
Thanks so much, Pete. Appreciate it.
Anytime, mate.